All right.
Quick announcement in Spanish regarding interpreting services. Buenas tardes. Si usted desea escuchar la sesión de hoy sobre el huracán, pueden, en español, pueden oprimir el globo que aparece en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Una vez que oprime el globo, seleccione el idioma el español y después puede oprimir el botón que dice mute audio original. De nuevo, aplaste el globo, después el idioma, selecciona español y después oprime el botón que dice mute audio original. También cualquier pregunta que desee hacer la puede poner en la cajita del chat. Cualquier pregunta la puede poner en la cajita del chat. Gracias. Go in, Larry.
Oh, okay, Roosevelt.
Thank you. Bonsoir. Si vous suivez conférence là, si vous voulez entendre la créole, ou à peser français French, ou pour aller sur French, et puis ou à mettre seulement sur Chanel qui en créole là, ou à entendre interprète en créole là. Et puis ou à retirer sur Chanel qui est pour avec anglais, ou à quitter sur créole seulement. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Okay, we're just going to wait 10 seconds until the interpreters are in their rooms. I asked the panel to please speak at a slow, steady pace so the interpreters can interpret every word easily. Thank you. Okay, it looks like we're ready to start, Mayor Riley.
Okay, well, thank you, Larry, and thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We wanted to have this town hall meeting so we could give everybody the latest updates on hurricane now, Henri, that has been now classified as a hurricane, and the track it's taking and what it might mean for our area. Earlier, I sent out a code red, giving information about where we were and telling people about this town hall meeting. And if you do not have code red and you'd like to sign up for code red, you can get that information on the Norwalk City website, www.norwalkct.org. With us this evening, we have a panel of people that will provide information and also be able to answer any questions that you may have. There'll be instructions. I believe you can enter your questions in the chat room. So I will tell you who the panelists are, and then we'll get started. On my screen, I have Kevin Barber from the 3rd Taxing District. I have Alan Huth from South Norwalk Electric, James Walsh, who is the Deputy Chief of Police. I have Michelle DeLuca from the Emergency Management Department. I have Kathy Lizon from Eversource, Anthony Carr, who's the Chief of Operations for the City of Norwalk, Gino Gatto, the Fire Chief from the City of Norwalk, Chris Torrey, who is also with DPW. And so with that, we can get started. As you know, we are in line to be impacted by Hurricane Henri. Hopefully by the time it gets to our area, we may be experiencing tropical force winds as opposed to hurricane force winds, but that is yet to be seen. The situation changes very quickly, and we try to provide an update on everything that we possibly can. So I'd like Michelle DeLuca from Emergency Management to give us the latest update. Michelle?
Great. Thank you, Mayor, and welcome to everybody. So again, we have been tracking Henri for actually probably about a week when it first formed in the Atlantic. And again, started sending information out to our partners and emergency management team, just again, making sure that everybody was monitoring the storm. So again, Henri is on a track towards Connecticut. The track is moving slightly to the east again. So landfall is expected near Old Lyme at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. It has slowed down quite a bit. So originally we were expecting some tropical force winds starting as early as tonight, and that does now look like it will probably start tomorrow. Yep, so again, we are expecting impacts between 6 a.m. starting at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then again, for the most part, we will see obviously a good bit of rain, some heavy damaging winds. The storm surge that was expected was originally 3 to 5 feet. And it is now looking like it will be closer on the lower side of 3 feet, which really does take it back to a moderate flooding level. Again, we are expecting winds gusting to 65 to 80 miles per hour in southeastern Connecticut and 40 to 60 miles per hour for the rest of the state. So again, this is a little bit down from earlier forecasts. But we do know that these strong wind gusts can cause trees and limbs to come down and cause some power outages. So again, our team has been meeting through Zoom almost every day, and we've been doing some regular updates and then smaller breakout meetings, focusing on a few key areas. One is obviously we're concerned about the power outages and the winds, as well as the storm surge. So we have put Red Cross on standby for tomorrow. Again, originally we were looking at possibly opening a overnight shelter beginning as early as tonight. But again, with the change in timing and the track, we are a little bit more comfortable putting everything towards tomorrow, opening Brian McMahon High School at 300 Highland Avenue as a reception center. And then as we go through the day, we will continue to assess, do some damage assessments. And then if that has to become an overnight shelter, we will make that change. But again, for the most part, we do know that residents prefer to stay home if they can. We also know that with the slower track and the change in track of Henri, we are looking more at landfall and impacts around the low tide timing versus having an impact during high tide. So again, there's some small benefits with it slowing down and changing track a little bit. Tomorrow we will have our emergency operations center open. And again, looking at the reception center at Brian McMahon High School. We also know that with power outages, if they are going to be extensive, we will look at keeping Brian McMahon open as a reception site for information, for showers, for food, to charge cell phones and other mobile devices, and then also look at the libraries as those centers as well, to make it a little bit easier for residents to get information. I'm trying to think. And then we also do know from Isaias, one of the lessons learned was making sure that residents that have well water have access to refilling stations. So we will make sure that at Fire Station 2 on Connecticut Avenue, 1 on Broad River, and 4 on Westport Avenue, we'll actually have filling stations, hoses. So residents that are out of water and again are on well water can refill as needed. So we did want to make that change and hope that that's helpful for residents. And then again, we've been working with a lot of our community partners to make sure that we are sending information. I know the senior center has been doing some outreach to seniors, making phone calls, and then also coordinating with some of our other agencies like the homeless shelter or open door shelter, and other partners as we get ready for this. But again, it has been a very fluid storm. So again, the forecast does change on a pretty quick basis. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Michelle. A few things that we always want to remind people, as we mentioned in the code red messages, make sure that you charge any batteries for your cell phone, for iPads, or any other communications needs that you might have. Also, for any medical equipment that you have, please check on elderly neighbors, family, friends, so that you can verify that they're okay and if they have any needs. In the event that we need to recommend evacuations, we will, as Michelle said, have an available space at Brian McMahon High School. But if you can find if you're in a low-lying area that usually has flooding problems, if you can find neighbors or friends that you can stay with, that's always the best option. One other thing that's really important is not to pass through or drive through any standing water on the road. Vehicles can flood out and they would be, you would be stuck in the middle, and that could be problematic. So keep that in mind. If you see standing water on the road, turn around, because you really don't know how deep it could possibly be. So now what I would like to do is go through the utility companies and just ask them to give an update as to their preparation. So we'll start off as my screen goes with Kevin Barber from TTD.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you for inviting me to join this panel. TTD has been in preparation for this storm for the last few days, and being involved with the EOC here. We are ready for this storm. Our crews have gassed up the trucks, charged everything, made sure all of our equipment is ready to go. We do have some of our partner contractors on standby, ready to go at a moment's notice if needed. We're also a member of NEPA, which is a Northeast Public Power Association, and their mutual aid program. So in the event that we have outages that we do need to call in extra help, we will reach out to NEPA and bring those folks down to help us. So at that point, I think I will tell any of our customers, first of all, that in the event of the emergency and they would need to call in for tomorrow and after hours, that they can call our after hours number, which is 203-663-6875. And that call will get answered by our answering service and forwarded all the information to the proper people at TTD. So basically TTD is ready for this, and God willing, we'll get through this all just fine.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, I have Alan Huth from South Norwalk Electric.
Thank you, Mayor, really. So as with Third Taxing District, SNU is also a member of NEPA for mutual aid should that become necessary. But our crews are ready and waiting eagerly to respond to make any repairs necessary in our system. Like Third District, all our vehicles are fueled up. All the vehicles that we've had that we stored down on Water Street have been moved up to State Street, so they're not at risk of being inundated. From the water's perspective, our water treatment plant is going to be fully staffed throughout the hurricane, and all of our standby generators have been recently serviced and filled with fuel. So we're fully staffed. Everyone is ready to respond. Our grounds crews with front end loaders, chainsaws, and backhoes are all set to clear roadways to get to our facilities in the event we have downed trees. We received a shipment of utility poles just last week, so we have an inventory of spares, not only poles, but wire and every other type of spare. So we feel we're pretty prepared for this storm, whatever it doles out to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. There'll be an opportunity to ask questions of the utility companies after we finish our presentation. Next, I have Kathy Lizon from Eversource. Kathy, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Mayor Rilling. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to report for Eversource. Just grab the. As we've reported through media outlets and also through our channels with the city of Norwalk, we are preparing for what we call a level 2 storm to impact our service territory. And of our 1.25 million customers, electric customers, we are anticipating or prepared for 50 to 69% of those customers could lose power, and our restoration could last between 8 and 21 days. And with this, we have brought in and are still acquiring thousands of line crews and free crews that are positioned in the state currently to be able to address the significant damage that we are anticipating and widespread damage that we expect to see from the storm. So we are telling customers to please be prepared for some lengthy outages. However, we are extremely focused on our responsibility to restore power as quickly and safely as possible for our customers. And we are providing a lot of information on our website, eversource.com, in terms of how to prepare for a storm, how to stock a storm kit, how to make sure that you know all the preparedness tips that we recommend whenever we're facing a large storm like this. And we also encourage customers to definitely stay away of any downed power lines and to report them to 911 and not to go near them, to assume they are live and to assume they are an electrical line. We also ask if you report your outages and use the online reporting system at eversource.com, or you can call customer service 800-286-2000. And many customers have signed up for two-way texting, and that's a great way to be able to receive information, report information, and also receive information in terms of your outages that you've reported. So Eversource is fully prepared for this storm, and we appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, Mayor, and the city of Norwalk tonight.
Thank you, Kathy. And that is a really good point that you brought up. If you see down lines and there are trees on the lines blocking the roads, etc., you have to assume that it's a live line and not to try to clear it yourself. What happens in order to do this, one of the utility companies will come by and make sure that the line is clear of power. And then the DPW can come in and cut the wood or the limbs or whatever else is across the line and be able to clear the road. But a lot of times people might have a tendency to try to clear the road themselves, and that could be catastrophic. Please don't try to do that. Alan, could you give a number where people might call to let them know about a South Norwalk electric outage?
Yes, we will be updating our website as far as whatever outages we may have. And our call center is available 24 hours. Our phone number is 203-866-3366, where you can reach our after hours respondents. I will be up through the storm myself, keeping tabs on where we stand and sharing information with your office as well.
Thank you, Alan. I just want to tell everybody also that I've been contacted by News 12, and they will be doing, starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, they will be doing Zoom meetings and having various people on from around the county to give latest updates. So if you can tune into channel 12, you'll get all that information. Deputy Chief Walsh, can you talk about the preparation for the police department and how you're staffing and so forth?
Yes, I can. Good evening, Mayor Rilling. Team in the Norwalk community. The Norwalk Police Department has been preparing for the hurricane for several days now. Our staffing through Monday is well above normal staffing, not only on the street, but in communications. If people need to dial 911 for emergencies and 854-3000 for non-emergency calls, we'll have full staffing in our dispatch center. We also have emergency services units deployed starting tomorrow with Zodiac boats and 2 rescue vehicles to assist in any people that get trapped. If they do drive through standing water, hopefully people heed the mayor's warning. If you do see barrels, do not drive around the barrels on the street. They're usually put there as a warning. During the last tropical storm, we did have some people drive through, and it did create a rescue situation. So please be mindful of the barrels. Also, please pay attention to our social media. We've been putting out a lot of messages in regards to the latest updates. Norwalk Police Twitter, Facebook. Our Marine Division is fully staffed. They'll be working all day till midnight tomorrow. Also, if you do have a boat in a marina, please make attempts to secure the boat. Extra bumpers, extra lines. Be mindful of which way your boat is pointing. If the storm is coming in, make sure your bilge pump battery is turned on, so to prevent it from flooding out and sinking. But our Marine Division is ready, and if you do need them, please dial 911. And they're also monitoring channel 16 on a VHF. And also, we could also be contacted on the Norwalk Police text tip line, which you could download through any Android or Apple phone. It's just a text message, which we receive here at Communications, and any information, it's completely anonymous. You could just report information, or if you're in need of assistance, you could text us. But right now, we're at full staff. We're ready through Monday for anything that may happen at this time.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Next, we have Fire Chief Gino Gatto. Chief, can you tell us about the fire department preparations?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. As the police department, we are also ready. All the equipment has been checked. All the apparatus is in service. We're also going to man 2 flight cars, manned with 2 individuals in each car, so that reports of wires down or trees down, that vehicle will go out first, and possibly put down caution tape if actually the road's completely blocked. So instead of putting a fire apparatus on the call, we can send one of these flight vehicles in there. So we're open for business. We're going to answer every call for service, priority-wise, that we can, depending on the severity of the storm, how strong the winds are. Obviously, if they're over 50 miles an hour, we will not respond directly until the winds subside. All of the safety messages are very well spoken tonight. Just want to mention that when the storm is over and people tend to go out and just walk around, please stay away from anything that has a wire that's on the ground, because you don't know if it's live or not. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. That was a good point that the Chief raised. The national standard for emergency response, if the winds get over 50 miles an hour, the police and fire will stand by, but they don't want to become victims, because that can be very, very dangerous for people out on the road. So just keep that in mind. Next, we have our Chief of Operations, Anthony Carr, and we have with him Chris Torrey. Mr. Carr?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor. So just to give everyone a brief update, Public Works has had the opportunity to track the storm for the last several days. Our storm hotspots, or our flooding hotspots, have been checked 2 weeks prior to the event, and we also did a final check earlier this week. We've cleared all grates, catch basins, and outlets that are visible to us. So as far as the storm drainage is concerned, obviously there may be some surcharging or overflowing from the intense rains, but to the extent that we can maintain our storm drains, we have. Operations will be fully staffed during the event. We do plan on calling the first crew in at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then with a second crew to follow, with the remainder of the crew at approximately 7 or 8 o'clock, following after that several hours, just to see how bad the storm is or is not. We'll make a game time decision at the early hours of the morning. If we need to bring the rest of the crews in earlier than the 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning shift, we certainly will, but we will have a number of staff here from 4 in the morning and on. Operations has also checked all their equipment, chainsaws, trucks, flashlights, chargers, every apparatus and equipment that we use for our tree removal operations, tree maintenance operations, storm cleaning operations, etc., has also been checked and verified and in good working order. Parks has secured their facilities too for any loose objects, picnic tables, barbecues, anything of the sorts that could possibly damage or infringe on public safety or property damage has been secured. WPCA, the wastewater treatment plant, will be fully staffed by its contract operator, Suez. We're going to have approximately 6 or 7 personnel in there throughout the 24-hour operational period, And they have also checked their infrastructure and anticipate no issues, especially following Elsa, which the treatment plant did pretty good considering the impact that the storm did have on us. Again, we're going to be monitoring the storm throughout the night. I do have another meeting with my operations, parks, and engineering staff at 8 o'clock tonight to further discuss the storm track and see if we need to make any adjustments to the plan. But again, if there are flooding complaints or issues during the storm, please understand that when we're in the response mode, we may not be able to clear every catch basin, especially if the conditions are dangerous outside for the staff, and that goes to emergency services. And our first and highest priority is to make sure that the roads are safe and passable and clear so that emergency services can access and get to your homes. And that includes PD, FD, and EMS. So again, we've coordinated, we've also deployed VMS signs in 3 locations on Beach Road, Water Street, and Meadow Street near South Main. We are supplying FD with additional traffic barrels. We provided PD with some barrels, and we have preloaded our trucks as well with some temporary traffic control devices, i.e. barrels, cones, flashing lights, etc. So, Mr. Mayor, we're fully prepared for the storm, and I have full confidence in DPW as always.
Thank you, Anthony. Chris, did you have anything to offer? Chris Torrey? Anything else? You're muted if you're speaking. Oh, there you go.
Sorry, Mayor. Anthony stole my thunder. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, but he pretty much summed everything up. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank everyone else too for participating.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, one of the things we always try to stress very importantly is when the emergency services and DPW are doing their job and the utilities, when people are out and about from their homes, it can create more of a problem and divert them from their work at hand. So the best place for people to be, and is to stay in their home until the storm has safely passed. Don't go out and put yourself in danger. The other thing we've noticed, and if it gets to a point, we will be closing the beach, because we've noticed that some people will go down and bring out surfboards and kayaks and other things and paddle boards and try to get out there and get the excitement of the waves and the increased action out in the sound. And that creates a problem, and it makes it necessary perhaps for our Marine Division to go out in a rescue mission and putting themselves at danger as well as yourself. So please don't go down to the beach and go out on paddle boards and so forth. That brings us to, I think, our question and answer period, unless anybody else has anything that they'd like to offer.
Mayor, can I just say one more thing?
Yes, Chief.
So since this is probably going to be a prolonged power outage event, people will be using generators. Please do not bring your generator inside. Keep it away from windows and doors, because carbon monoxide will build up very quickly. You will have no idea, and it's be very, very dangerous. The other thing is, be very careful if you're using candles, not to leave the room unattended, because they tend to fall over easily and catch fire. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Very good points. So we'll start with the question and answers. The first one I have is, do you have a phone number to call in an emergency? I think Deputy Chief Walsh has already answered that one. And that answer is to always dial 911 in the case of an emergency, and 854-3000 for a non-emergency issue. And they will have extra people in dispatch to be able to handle the calls. I'm going to ask Mr. Luca to answer this one. I think she kind of touched on it, but when is the storm expected to hit Norwalk?
Great. So again, based on the current forecast, we are expecting the first impacts of Henri between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. Wind and rain will increase steadily throughout the afternoon. We are currently expecting about 4 to 8 inches of rainfall. But that's really, again, Sunday through Monday as well. And ultimately we'll move out of the area sometime Monday-ish. And then the one benefit is the timing of landfall really is now coinciding with low tide, whereas earlier forecasts had it coinciding with high tide. So just for reference, high tide is at 12:06 noon, low tide tomorrow, 6 a.m. And then the second low tide is 6:17 p.m. So it does look like the landfall will really again coincide a little bit more with low tide versus what we originally were planning with high tide. So it's a little
Thank-
bit of good news.
Thank you. If there's any good news in this whole situation, that is good news. Next, we have.
Excuse me, Mayor, I just wanted, there are a few people that are raising their hand. I'd want to remind everyone, if you want to leave a question, click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and you can type in your question.
Thank you, Mr. Manzi. Next question we have is, will any loose road construction signs be removed? There are some on Wilson Avenue that can easily blow over. Mr. Carr?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We will, prior to the staff coming in tonight, we will assess the locations. And when they do arrive at 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, we will do a sweep of the city to make sure that any state CONDOT construction signs are properly secured, and even our own signs for any DPW projects or other city projects that are going on. So we certainly will look for any potential liabilities as far as signage or anything that can become a projectile or harmful to a person or property. So yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. That also is a reminder that if you have anything outside furniture, other kinds of things that can be blown away based on with the wind, that can cause damage to cars or houses or people, please try to secure it. Bring things inside that can be brought inside, and try to tie down things that perhaps are too big to bring inside so they don't become dangerous. Next question is, how long is the rain expected on Sunday, Ms. DeLuca?
Pretty much all day. Again, really all day Sunday, and looking more into most of Monday as well, before it fully heads out. I think again, we'll see hot spots. So we'll see some areas or some bands with some heavier rain, and then things may quiet down. But really, again, just really plan on a steady rain throughout the day, and probably Monday as well.
Okay, thank you. And how do we know the projected inches of rain? I know they said something about 6 months worth of rain in 2 days, but how does that compute to inches?
So the last forecast we received, which is about like 5:30, it's still calling for about 4 to 8 inches of rain for our area. But again, those numbers have been changing really throughout the day. But for now, I think we can probably say 4 to 8, and then we'll keep evaluating with additional forecasts.
And the next question pertains to moving cars. So what time do you expect the flooding to happen, if there is going to be moderate flooding?
Well, again, high tide is noon tomorrow, and then the second high tide would be 12:22 on Monday morning. We have made the parking garages at Yankee Doodle and Maritime garages free of charge. So if people do want to move your cars, just to get them out of the way, even if you choose to stay home, you are able to park there starting as early as tomorrow, 7 a.m. And then really we've looked at extending it probably through Tuesday, and we can go additional time if needed. So again, traffic and management has really again offered those services, because we do know that people again may want to stay home or stay with family or friends that may not have the parking spaces, or just want to get their cars out of harm's way, but again may not come to the reception center. So again, Yankee Doodle and Maritime garages are open for parking.
Thank you. I'm getting a question from Jeff, who is flying in from JetBlue. He's in San Diego. He's going to be flying around 12:15. We have no words on the airlines, Jeff, about any cancellations. I would suggest that you keep trying JetBlue, because they'll probably at some point close down both Kennedy and LaGuardia airports, and also Newark and Westchester. So I would just keep trying JetBlue, but we don't have any information from the airlines at this point. Let's see what we have next. Paul is asking, could you go over the timeline with respect to what we can expect to happen when? This is only an estimate. I think you've pretty much gone over that quickly, Michelle, but if you could just say, when do we expect the winds to start? And when do we expect the rain to start? And when do we expect it to be over?
Great. So again, first impacts should be between 6 a.m. Through 10 a.m. Again, we'll start seeing the wind and rain increasing steadily. And then again, landfalls, it would be again in that East Lyme area, would be around 6 to 7 p.m. So really again, almost expecting it to build through then. And then plan probably all day Sunday and most of Monday for the rain before it finally moves out.
Thank you. Okay. And you can answer this question as well. It seems as though the recent updates about the storm are moving it more east. Is that correct? I believe that is, but could you verify that, Michelle?
Yep, it actually does seem to be, and Anthony, you were right in your earlier call. It does seem to be moving a little bit towards east. For a while, it had been shifting to the west, and now it seems to be, again, shifting back to the original eastern area. So again, that is some good news for us.
Kathy, for you, Ms. Liaison, I guess that people are asking about the Isais, and they're saying that have you been making arrangements to have a response based on a larger number? I believe you said you're bringing in thousands of crews, which seems to be something that will be very effective. Could you just touch on that a little bit?
Sure, Mayor. Yes, we are prepared for the significant number that potentially could be impacted from this storm. What is good, if you can say good about the storm, is that it's not starting in Florida and coming up the whole eastern seaboard. And that takes really lots of crews that are part of mutual aid organizations. That ties up a lot of resources. In this situation, because it is not coming up the whole East Coast and causing havoc, those crews are available to us to have ready to deploy to respond to this storm. So the resource situation is completely different than it was for Isaias, and we feel confident that we're going to have plenty of crews, line crews, tree crews, and all the right resources to respond to this storm as quickly and safely as possible.
Yes, that's good. Thank you for that answer. I know that when a storm hits a wide area on the East Coast, you have to deploy crews to other states as well as to Connecticut and our area. So that kind of waters down your ability to respond widely. So that's a very, very good point.
Excuse me, Mayor. We
Yes.
have a Kimberly Morton from the attendees that says she has a Norwalk Transit District update from the governor. I don't know if we'd like to let her speak.
Yes, why don't you let Ms. Morton in, and we'll get an update from the transit from the governor. I think that's really important. Ms. Morton, welcome, and if you have an update, we'd love to hear it.
If you unmute, we'll be able to hear you. Ms. Morton.
Okay, well, let's answer some questions until we get this straightened out.
Okay.
Will there be a cooling center at MPD community room and/or anywhere else if necessary? I think we can answer that in the affirmative. We always try to open cooling centers when we feel that it's going to be a situation where the heat is oppressive and that power may be out and people may be losing their air conditioning, or other people that may not have air conditioning. So the answer to that is yes. How will people be notified if they have to evacuate? Mr. Luca, you want to answer that? I know that if you're living in a low-lying area, as the rain starts, you might want to consider evacuating to a friend's house or to a neighbor's house. I mean, not a neighbor's house, I'm sorry, a relative's house. But Michelle, do you want to answer that?
Sure. Again, we will keep monitoring the update if needed, again, especially with the high tides based on how they're looking. We can do a code red call if needed. Also know that we could use fire and police with have the enunciators on in their vehicles to be able to share information. So again, we are looking at it again as the storm surge is coming down a bit. That is giving us a little bit more reassurance that it won't be, again, requiring, again, the stronger evacuations or assisted evacuations. But we will definitely kind of keep an eye on the next 1 or 2 forecasts that we're getting from the Weather Service and from the state. Because as the day has gone on, again, the forecast has been changing quite a bit. So again, we will use social media, traditional media, we'll use the website, Code Red as needed, and then also some of the traditional outreach with the vehicles going around to those most low-lying areas. So you figure Shorefront Park, Harborview, areas off Woodward, again, Belle Island, Rowayton, that neck of the woods. So again, we do know really where those low-lying and trouble spots are. So information can be disseminated in those areas.
Thank you. And just a positive note, Jeff is thanking everybody for this Zoom session. You're very welcome, Jeff. We appreciate we appreciate your appreciation. Let's see. We got a question here. How hard will this storm hit? I don't know if we have an answer to that right now, but Mr. Luca, any ideas as a comparison as to what it might look like?
We've heard some comparisons of, again, between Isaias and Sandy. So Isaias was last year, and that really was more that wind and really wind damage for us. We had a significant number of roads closed due to trees and wires down. I think we had about 170 trouble spots that we identified with Eversource. And Sandy was definitely a stronger storm surge. That was what, almost 10 years ago. So again, that early on when we saw some of the earlier forecasts, there are a lot of comparisons to Sandy. Again, now I think we're seeing more comparisons to Isaias from last year. But again, we just don't know. And again, every time the weather forecast changes, it's been a little bit more in our favor, but we always monitor and kind of prepare for a little bit of the worst.
Thank you. I have a reminder from the monitor of this. If you have a question to ask, please click on the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. It's much easier than raising your hand, and that's how I can answer. We can answer all the questions. Somebody's asking if evacuation is recommended at this time for South Norwalk. Not necessarily right at this time, but if you've had problems with flooding in the past, it's always better if you're concerned to evacuate as quickly or as soon as you possibly can. So the answer to that is, I think it's up to your judgment, but as you see the rain starting to come down, you want to make sure that you evacuate before it becomes too difficult to do so. We have a question. If a tree comes down on a home, who do residents call first if it comes through the roof or a wall? Mr. Carr, do you have it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So if the tree is a city tree, they can certainly contact customer service or public works. We will respond, and we would more than likely have our emergency tree contractor go out and limb up or cut up the tree for liability reasons, especially, and especially that's also due to the fact that public works may also be in response and resources may be allocated elsewhere. So if it's a city tree that falls on private property, we absolutely will have our emergency services contractor, which is Olmsted Tree Care. They will address the tree situation in that particular instance. If a private tree falls on the city right away, public works will chop and cut down the portion of the private tree on the city that fell on the city right away. And then the homeowner or the private property owner would be responsible to retain their own contractor to cut up the tree and put it to the side of the road. And then during, like most cases, Public Works has been liberal and understanding of the fact from the residents that obviously the more of the tree that the tree contractor has to take down or haul off their site costs more money for the resident. So we will typically pick up anything that's left over, whether it's from a public tree or a city tree or a private tree. If it's left in the right of way, we will take it. We will not remove or prune or delimb a private tree. But if it is a city tree and or the remnants of the private tree are left in the right of way, we won't just segregate between the city tree remnants and the private remnants. We'll actually pick up both. Obviously, during an emergency situation, we're not there to split between city and private in the right of way. So we will accommodate the residents.
And
And,
if it goes through the house, call
yeah.
911.
Yes, exactly.
yes.
I was going to
If
say
it's
call
an-
911, and it would probably be best to evacuate your home because the initial impact could be just the beginning, and we want to make sure that nobody gets injured or worse. So if you have a tree that hits your house and it crushes through the roof, you're better off, like I said, calling 911 and leaving, and then getting assistance from a private contractor to help take care of that. Another question, I've heard a lot of different predictions. What is the latest for wind miles per hour predictions?
I'm still looking at about 40 to 60 miles per hour for our part of the state. And then gusts up to 65 to 80 miles per hour in southeastern Connecticut. And I will also say that it is important to really watch where the forecasts are predicted for, especially with wind, storm surge. Again, we are, again, it's a very small state. So a lot of times you'll see on the Weather Channel and some of the other media, they just kind of put everything together for the state of Connecticut. So again, there are some very big differences between Western Connecticut and Eastern Connecticut, where landfall really is predicted. So you may often see, again, Weather Channel or CNN and some of the other big media, they just kind of clump all of the forecasts together. So even if they're saying, hurricane impact, it's 65 to 80 miles per hour, that doesn't really mean us. So again, just recognize as you're looking at the forecasts, and I know that with the media, there's always theme musics and a lot of images, and it's the news of the day. So just really, again, be mindful of the details for where the forecasts are predicted for, because again, we do see some big weather differences between, again, southeastern Connecticut and then southwestern Connecticut.
Thank you. We need Deputy Chief Walsh. Could you please repeat the number for texting?
Yes, we don't have a number. If you go to your app store on your Apple or your Android phone and search Norwalk PD, it's a free app. Just download it. And once you download it, it communicates right to us. All you have to do, it opens up and you can just text right to us. So there's not a specific phone. It's an app on your phone and you can download it for free.
Okay, thank you. Diane Cece has a shout out for the 3rd Taxing District. She said, 3rd Taxing District electric rocks. We seldom lose power and are always restored quickly. So thank you, TTD. Kevin's shaking his head yes.
You're welcome. We try.
We have someone asking for Ms. Liaison. Kathy, what is the probability of this amount of outages given your level 2 preparedness? If you can answer that. And a lot of people are asking about the 8 to 21 days. I know you said level 2 preparedness, and it seems as if with the storm moving to the east a little bit, and the predictions for winds here in Fairfield County and Lower Fairfield County, that it might not be at that level. Do you have anything, comment you want to add about that?
Well, right now, that's our preparedness message to customers. So as things change, and that's a very good point. The storm track seems to have changed 10 times today already. So with the changes that could still come, that will impact the amount of damage that could come from the storm. So it's impossible to predict what that's going to really look like when the storm makes landfall. But from the various tools that we use to evaluate and prepare for storms, this is our best information at this point. And as things change, we are updating the city of Norwalk, for example, and all municipalities with very frequent updates on our preparedness planning, because it has changed during the last 12 hours today from a lesser storm to what we're preparing now, a more extensive outage storm. So as we find out additional information, we'll update those information briefings that we send to the city. And we're at the same time, we're doing information briefings to the city and to all municipalities. We are providing the same information to the media outlets. So you'll be hearing things from the public perspective, you'll be hearing things from the media outlets as we change that information. And also on eversource.com, we have provided, as well as our outage map that customers can access, we have updated information on that preparedness information.
Thank you. Next, we have a question again from Diane. Michelle or Anthony, is the customer service line open or staffed this weekend, 854-3200?
Yep. So there was a small technical glitch with the weekend customer service number. We will have staff there, and we will again continue to update the website. The number for the weekend is 854-7798. It's a direct number that will be answered. And then they will work through with Brian, the customer service manager, and his staff to field the calls and get them answered, put the requests in the system. And then the normal 3200 number will be back live on Monday. So we are just kind of working on that, especially for future events. But again, 854-7798. On the city's website, if you look at the hurricane spotlight, I did make that change for customer service for today and tomorrow. So that number is up there. And then again, the normal 3200 will be back on Monday.
Okay, thank you. We have a question for 3rd Taxing District. If there are downed trees, is the number to call 203-663-6875?
Well, I think with the down trees in the 3rd district, you still want to handle it the way Mr. Carr referenced it. Probably the key though is that if the trees have fallen into the power lines, that's when we're going to end up having to be contacted to obviously get them out of the wires. And I'm sure it's the same with Eversource and SNU. If any of the trees are in the power lines, that's when we need to be contacted so that we can clear the lines and make it safe.
Okay, thank you. There's a question, there's an unanchored utility pole on Silvermine Avenue temporarily attached to a new pole. It doesn't look like it will withhold any high winds. I think maybe we can get an answer from either DPW or some of the utility people as how that is anchored. I think they anchor them or they tie them up pretty good, so it doesn't seem like there's going to be a problem. Is that correct?
Eversource is conducting pole replacements on Silvermine Avenue. I just happened to notice that the other day. So I'm not familiar with which pole they're talking about, but there are a lot of new poles along that road.
Okay. Kathy, you want to add to that? I know when they install new poles, they seem to anchor them pretty well. I don't think they'd be susceptible to any winds. Do you want to address that?
Right. We're not putting things in, even if it's a temporary situation, till we remove the old pole, and we're not going to leave it in a situation that is going to be hazardous. But if a customer has any concern it's better to call us at 800-286-2000 and report that particular. If you can see the poll number, that'd be very helpful. But otherwise, it should be properly secured.
Okay, thank you. Next question is about the wastewater treatment plant. Can it handle the excessive storm runoff through the stormwater system? It said that some areas experience sewer backup in their homes. What measures are being taken for this storm to prevent this? Mr. Carr or Mr. Torrey or both?
Mr. Mayor, before I turn over to Mr. Torrey, the WPCA and sewers team has checked, again, much like operations has checked their trouble spots, meaning areas that have a historic buildup of fats or grease, oils, etc. Our treatment plant is rated to accommodate 95 million gallons per day. Just for frame of reference, during Elsa, when we received 4.3 inches of rainfall in approximately 6 hours, which equated to about the 25-year storm event or a 4% chance event that could occur annually. That flow into the treatment plant was about 75 million gallons a day. And again, it was a little bit taxing on the treatment plant, but there was no internal issues. There was no failures. All 25 pump stations, 22 of them being sanitary sewer, 3 of them being storm, all operated. I believe only 1 went on generator power. All generators have been checked. Unfortunately, some of the stormwater does find its way into the sanitary sewer system through what's called inflow and infiltration. It happens during major storm events or intense storm events where the storm and the sanitary combine in the sanitary line. We've done everything we can to check all our spots and make sure that our lines were clear, and to also make sure that the treatment plant infrastructure was in good working order. So we didn't have as many problems as we expected during Elsa. So hopefully if this is a lesser intense, longer duration event, we should be fine.
Thank you. There's a question here, and Ms. Lizon, you can answer this, I guess. Is there an app for Eversource to check for updates?
Yes, there is. There's a at eversource.com. I will look for the link for you while we're talking, but there's a way that you can go to eversource.com and look for the outage information right on our homepage, because it's going to be really the headline of what we're focused on now. So if you go to eversource.com and you click on outage information, there should be a link there or a page that would take you to how to set up the texting option, because we can do that for you. And I'll see if I can get the link for you. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Another question, will we be doing another Zoom session tomorrow with updates? That all depends on the situation. The likelihood is that we will do that if the storm intensity is a little bit more than we thought, or based on conditions as to what's happening and what we need to communicate to people. We'll either do a code red or another Zoom session, but we want to make sure that we do everything that we possibly can to communicate with the public and give them current status situations so that they can be aware of what's going on. So the answer to that is most likely we will. Next, we have, will trash and recycling be picked up on Monday? Anthony, I believe they probably will, or Chris?
Mr. Mayor, yes, as of right now, based on the current forecast, we don't anticipate canceling recycling and garbage collection. But again, based on tomorrow's forecast and tomorrow's weather conditions, myself and the superintendent of operations would make that decision and obviously push that out to the communications manager and any future messaging to the public. So right now, it's a go, and tomorrow we'll make that final decision if it's going to be suspended on Monday.
Thank you. Mr. Luca, you might be able to answer this. Somebody mentioned 8 inches of rain. Could you please clarify if that is a lot? What is the normal 8 inches by what, in what time frame?
Great. And actually, Anthony may also be able to help with this one. So during Elsa, those quick few hours where it was, again, torrential downpours, we recorded about 6 inches of rain in, Anthony, I think it was probably about an hour. Again, the benefit with this storm, if we can say that, is it really will be spread over a longer duration of at least 24, if not longer hours. So it is still a lot, and it will saturate the ground. But again, we won't see that same level of, I think the downpours and just that urban flooding that we saw with Elsa.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, Michelle, you covered it. Again, I mean, we had, at its peak, we had 4.3 inches of rainfall within the 6-hour period, which I believe occurred somewhere between 5, 6 in the morning and to about 11 o'clock in the morning. So that was the rough time frame when the rain was at its worst or most intense. And the thing with Elsa is that it was pretty consistently intense for a very short duration. So that's where a lot of the issues occurred. But if we have the 8 inches spread out over 24 hours, which equates to about a 100-year storm event, on average, again, it depends how much of the 8 inches that we're getting in which time, right? So if it's 24 hours or if it's longer than that, that is a much lesser equivalent to what we dealt with in the prior storm.
Thank you. When will Brian McMahon open as an emergency center tomorrow? That's 7 a.m. It will be open as a reception center. Will remain open as long as necessary. And if the storm is of such intensity and people need to spend the night there, they will be able to. We ask that if anybody is going into the Brian McMahon shelter, 2 things. First, you'd be asked to present a vaccine card to go in. If you're not vaccinated, you would be in the smaller gym so that we make sure that everybody stays safe. With the storm moving a bit more east, what are the projected wind miles per hour? Mr. Luke, I think you said somewhere around 40 miles, 50 miles an hour for our area.
Yep, correct. We're still about 40 to 60. And again, that probably will change between now and tomorrow, hopefully.
Mayor, can I add one thing? I'm sorry to interrupt. The question about the app. We do have an app. It is in the App Store for the iPhone or Google accounts. So it's under Eversource Energy. And then you could just go in and set it up and you'll be all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody's making a statement here. The town did a great job sending a huge truck to evacuate Harbor View as the tide broke over the seawalls in Sandy. Don't wait and have a bag packed when asked to go if you are in one of those areas. Good advice. It's always better to be safe than sorry. If there's any concerns about flooding in your area, I would recommend that you evacuate, move your cars out of the area so that they don't get damaged, and move out or go with a relative or a friend as early as you possibly can if you have any concerns. What is the best source to look at for updates tomorrow? Mr. Luke, I believe that would be the city website. And also any, if we have anything for a Zoom meeting or a code red, we would definitely send that out. Is that correct?
Yep, correct. We do have the hurricane spotlight on the city webpage. So if you're on the page and you navigate down a little bit, again, it is very easy to find. And I am trying to put information there as often as possible. And this goes to the question below of how often am I doing updates? Again, as they come in, if there's significant change or again, additional information we do want to add, we're trying to get that up as soon as possible. And I would just ask for some patience because there's just so much going on. Sometimes it's a little bit delayed, but we try to do at least a couple updates a day. The social media site for the city is actually very good about, again, posting content a little bit more often, and then also being able to respond. And the PD social media site is fantastic as well. Although again, I do have an emergency management Facebook or Twitter. For the most part, again, we are so deep in the response mode tomorrow. It's very hard to maintain. So again, the city's website is really the best resource, as is the city's official Twitter and Facebook posts.
Thank you. Also, I mentioned earlier that News 12, who's doing a very good job of keeping us updated on the track of the storm and the intensity, starting at 9 tomorrow morning. They will be doing a series of Zoom meetings where various leaders from around the state will be a part of it or from their service area. And they've asked us to make ourselves available so that we can do updates on a regular basis. So News 12 will be having something as well. When will the storm begin to hit us? I think we've covered that. That's going to be what time, Mr. Luca?
I'm sorry.
What time will the storm begin to hit us?
Again, the first effect, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Sorry about that.
And the evacuation center is going to be Brian Mcmahon High School, 300 Highland Avenue. Somebody asked about the address for the evacuation center. And where can residents get water if needed and charge their devices? You certainly can charge your devices at the evacuation center. That's one place. What about water, Mr. Luca?
So for residents that have well water who are looking to refill buckets, not tubs, buckets, other canisters, we will have a water refill station at Station 2, which is Connecticut Avenue, Station 4, which is Westport Avenue, and Station 1 on Broad River. We picked those 3 sites mostly because they are closest to those neighborhoods that are on well water. So again, we wanted to make it convenient for them. We will also look at, based on the impact, if it's more, again, drinking water and a higher impact where food and other consumables might be needed. We can look, or again, work with our neighboring communities and FEMA in the state of Connecticut for commodities distribution. Again, probably cases of water, but we really won't know that until the storm passes through and we're able to do damage assessment. So again, water refill is at those stations.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Carr, we have a couple of questions that I'll just read a couple of them and you can provide the answer. How do we effectively report storm drain flooding or sewer line backup? What safeguards are being taken for those of us who live off Ward Street where the catch basins are tied into the sewer lines? What else do we have? Would it help to flush less during the storm to help pressure on the treatment facility? I don't believe that's necessary. So if you could answer the questions regarding the sewer lines and the storm drains and what precautions the operations center has taken in preparation for the storm, because I know you said you've done quite a few things of clearing the lines and other things.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we approximately over the last 2 weeks, we've checked our normal problems areas, low-lying areas, hotspots. We've also checked catch basin grates and also the curb pieces to make sure that we're free of obstructions. Of course, that doesn't rule out the fact if there's wind tonight or wind tomorrow that they could reblock and recover the grates. But to answer the initial question, I would contact customer service. Michelle, I know, can you repeat that number again for the weekend?
Sure, it is 854-7798.
Thank you. And then obviously over on Monday, it'll be 854-3200. But that'll be the best way because customer service will also be able to monitor and keep track of all the different locations where these issues are occurring related to storm drainage, catch basin clogging, et cetera. And then we can even map it out during and after the storm to see where those trouble spots are. So I would start with customer service for sure. And then you could also call the DPW center as well. If it is an emergency to the point where the grates are completely blocked and then there's a massive amount of flooding in the roadway, perhaps even closing the road, then obviously the situation would escalate to even emergency services. But I would really, it would be helpful for the department so we can monitor and allocate resources if they can go to customer service, and then we could deploy resources as necessary. Flushing the toilets or not using fixtures won't be an issue. You can use plumbing fixtures as needed during the storm. Like I said, during Elsa, we had 75 million gallons a day going to the treatment plant at its peak, and we're rated for 95 million gallons a day. So we're not too concerned or worried in that aspect. And again, we have checked lines. And the third question, I believe, was we have checked lines both storm and sanitary and even our combined areas to make sure that they're free of obstructions prior to the storm. Again, could something happen tonight when obstruction enters the storm sewer, even the storm sewers that are connected to the sanitary sewer? Sure, it could happen, in which case we'll respond accordingly. But we have checked within reason and to the extent that we can, all our lines and catch basins.
Thank you. I know you've been out there doing a lot of things to try to minimize any impact that the heavy rains might have, and allowing the storm drains and the sewer lines to have a larger capacity. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr.
Mayor
Ross is-
Rilling?
Yes.
Kimberly Morton has a message from the governor, but she can't speak, so I'm going to read her message. Norwalk Transit is canceled for Sunday. Vehicles in the flood zone at Norwalk Community College are being moved to high ground. NCC will have a delayed start on Monday. Time is to be determined. One last thing, due to catalytic starter thefts, they are working with the Norwalk Police for security at that site.
Oh, the catalytic converter theft? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Luca, how often will we update the Norwalk website? I think every time we get new updates from the state and so forth.
Yep, correct.
Jackie is very appreciative. She said the meeting was very helpful. Thank you. Are pets allowed in the cooling stations? I believe they probably are, but we'd have to check and see, but we'll let you know more when we get that information. If you could check with the customer service center, we will make sure we get that information for you.
Yep, and actually, Mayor, I do have that. So for tomorrow especially, we will have somebody from animal control there to assist, which is what we would do for a normal shelter operation. So in this case, we will have for tomorrow an area for pets. We would not let the pets in with the larger grouping. So again, pet owners and their furry family members will kind of stay in a little bit of a different area just for allergies and other needs. And we do have some accommodations, and those accommodations would be in place if we were doing an overnight shelter as well. If we transition to a normal site where we're just kind of popping in and out at the libraries and some other cooling centers, then normally it's really not pet amenable. But again, when we're looking at it for tomorrow and any kind of shelter or longer term assistance, we would find a way to make those accommodations.
Thank you very much. What's the most reliable and recent up-to-date weather information? As I mentioned earlier, News 12 has a 24-hour coverage. They're doing a very good job of keeping us informed on the track of the storm and what the amount of rain and wind that we might receive. Also, the city website will be updated on a regular basis. And I mentioned News 12 will also have Zoom meetings periodically, I believe, starting at 9 tomorrow morning. So those are all places where we can get the latest information. Us oldies need phone numbers, apps, etc. We do not know how to use. So Mr. Luca, well, first of all, 911 during an emergency. Mr. Luca, the number for the customer service again?
Yep, it's 854-7798. And then on Monday, it'll switch back to 854-3200. That's the normal customer service number.
Deputy Chief Walsh, could you give the numbers for reporting things to the police department?
Yes, of course, 911 for all emergencies and 854-3000.
Thank you. Okay. Again, Ms. Ross, very helpful this session. Thank you very much. She recognizes how much stress this is for everybody, and we appreciate your comments. So thank you. Once we lose power, no Wi-Fi, how do we get info?
So this is actually a really good question, and I think it may have been asked a little bit earlier. So again, we will look at the outages. We are fortunate with SNU and third taxing that, again, they are often up and running if they lose any power at all. So we are very fortunate to have 3 power providers in Norwalk. We would also look at some of the areas that are hardest hit, and we can do that by the Eversource portal and, again, the tools that we have. And what we had done with Sandy is we actually did have some of the fire inspectors and some other staff go out with flyers and just, again, canvass the area. So people did know where to go for information, that the shelter was open, that, again, hot meals were there, and for some of the other resources. And then we would also work with some of our partners in nonprofits that, again, may work with a lot of families, and then do some other outreach to spread the word as much as we can. So houses of worship, especially, who then may have phone trees or other resources to get information out. And then also, if needed, we could post information at the elementary schools, because many of those are within walking distance. So again, to let people know that they can just go see some information for some updates. But for the most part, again, we will look at the areas most impacted and then really look at what kind of canvassing and outreach we would need to do to make sure people get the information that they need.
And the last question I have is, will the storm only be on Sunday or will it go into the week?
Really, the worst of it will be Sunday, and we will see some effects, obviously, Monday. And then ultimately it will move out of the area. Again, that information is also changing, because we know as the track of the storm changes, whether it decides to make another little loop-de-loop back over the states or go out to sea, that will affect some of the timing. So definitely good to keep an eye on the weather. And if I can also add 2 of my favorite apps, again, if you do use smartphones and apps, one is the American Red Cross Emergency app. So it's emergency with a little exclamation point, and then CT Prepares. So again, both of those apps have some really good tools. And if you want alerts, so when the National Weather Service does an alert, it will also push those out for severe thunderstorms and other severe weather. So again, those are 2 to look into, both free and on Apple and Android devices.
Thank you. So as we close down, I want to thank the city team. I want to thank the utility companies for joining us. When we first started, we had over 190 people logging in. So apparently this is a very effective way of communicating to the public. We will be continuing getting information out as thoroughly and quickly as we can. If there's any situation that we need to get out immediately, we will do that via Code Red, updating the city website and notifying News 12. If you do not have Code Red and you would like to sign on for it, please go to the city website and it'll give you the instructions. You can sign on for your cell phones, your home phones, to be able to get information in a timely fashion. We hope, based on the latest information, that the initial reports of the severity of this storm have been mitigated to a certain degree. We can keep our fingers crossed on that, say a little prayer or two. So with that, again, thank you to everybody that has participated, and we will be in touch with everybody as much as we possibly can throughout the next couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Yeah.
Stay
Take
safe.
care.